Okay. What is going on, everyone? How's your Saturday night going? Looks like my screen is a little bit dirty, so let's just clean that off really quick. All right, that's better. I just tweeted it out, so I'll give it a second. But for those of you not watching this Alabama LSU game, this game is absolutely insane. So if I seem distracted, that is where my attention is going this evening. Okay, so it looks like we do have some questions here. For those of you that first time, welcome. For those of you that are those of you that have been here for a while, thank you for coming back. This is a free form. We talk about this every week, but realistically, whatever you guys want to talk about, I'll talk about. So if you want to talk about strategy, if you want to talk about lineups, if you want to talk about which player you want to play, all of those things. If you're a season-long player, the beauty of DFS is that I study the matchups just as intently and more focused this week than a lot of the season-long guys who look more optimistic long-term, etc. So putting real money into DFS contests is often what we do. So here we go. 30 people. Looks like we tweeted it out. If you guys can give this video a thumbs up, that is much appreciated. We will get started. AP all day. Yeah, except he's not on the main slate. But if you're playing on a slate where you can play him, I think Adrian Peterson has some risk, certainly. But I don't think a lot of people are going to play him. So he could be a guy that you could look to. They don't really have anybody else. You know, Jeremy McNichols, not great. Darrington Evans out for the year. So Adrian Peterson as a stash, I think he's going to get 12 to 15 carries a game. If no Robinson, who's the best upside flex from Higbee, Shenault, Patrick, or Edwards? I don't understand. Are you saying that Shenault is impacted by Robinson? I'm assuming you mean James Robinson. I upside flex. Upside is probably Brian Edwards, but I wouldn't do that. I would probably go Shenault, to be honest. Aaron Jones against Kansas City. This one's interesting because I can't figure out if Jordan Love is going to help this running game, meaning they're going to run the ball more, or it's going to hurt because they're going to focus more on stopping the running game and they don't have to worry about Aaron Rodgers. I tend to lean towards the latter. But if I look at Aaron Jones, from a DFS perspective, he's incredibly expensive because he is in, I don't want to say a true 50-50 split, but he's definitely in a timeshare with A.J. Dillon, who I tend to like this week a little bit as like a dark horse type play, especially if you're into props. He's one of my favorite props this week. I don't know that I would play him in DFS. But if you look at Kansas City, there's a stigma that their run defense is terrible. And that's mostly predicated off of a game in which they allowed really the first 2 weeks of the year. So they allowed 83 yards and 2 touchdowns to Nick Chubb. Kareem Hunt also scored in that game. And then week 2, Baltimore ran, I think Lamar Jackson ran all over this Kansas City defense. Outside of that, they have had one running back top 60 yards since week 2. And that was Derrick Henry, who did that on 29 carries. Only 86 yards, which we all know Derrick Henry on 29 carries should be well over 100 yards. So I think this defense might be a little bit better than we think it is, but I'm not ready to commit to that. Long story short, Aaron Jones, he's fine. Not a lot of people are going to play him. So you could certainly do that, but I don't know that I'm going that route. I think Ezekiel Elliott is a better play. I think Nick Chubb is a better play. Joe Mixon is a better play. All of those guys who are in that range are guys that I prefer. I much prefer to Aaron Jones this week. Who's a better play on DFS, Kamara or Damian Harris? This is a tough one because realistically, they're not in the same price range. So it's hard to evaluate two players that are so vastly different. I think Kamara, the news that Trevor Siemian is going to start is going to certainly help Alvin Kamara quite a bit. But I do like Damian Harris a lot on FanDuel this week. At 6,600, I think the price is really, really good. Because if you look at what he's done the last 3 weeks, he's topped 100 yards in 2 of those 3. And then I think the other game he had 80 yards and a touchdown. So 4 touchdowns over his last 3 games, if I remember correctly. But in Carolina's defense, their statistics say they're better than what they are. They're a middle of the pack run defense. I think they're a very good pass defense, but their run defense certainly leaves something to be desired. Kamara is tricky because his price is way up there. And last week was a good week for him. Taking on the Falcons, I think he's going way too underlooked because a lot of people wrote him off because they thought Taysom Hill was starting. And with Trevor Siemian starting, if he's not, as long as Trevor Siemian is playing 60, 70% of the snaps at quarterback, which if he's starting, he certainly will, Kamara is going to catch his passes. He's going to be fine. So I like them both, but they're different because Harris I like as a cash play. I like him probably better, but Kamara is a sneaky GPP play because he's only going to be 5 to 8% rostered, which is far too low. DK running back cash, Zeke, Eckler, Booker. Yeah, there's a lot of injuries. And I guess I should just touch on that as we get started. But there's a lot of injuries this week. So let me just run through my list that I have prepared really quickly. That a lot is going to potentially change here in the next really 12 hours. So as we go through the list, Deebo Samuel's questionable with a calf injury. It looks like he's not going to play, but he could be like a last-minute play. Eli Mitchell questionable with a rib injury. Kyle Shanahan sort of indicated that if Jeff Wilson is able to go, they may hold Eli Mitchell out this week. Aaron Rodgers, we talked about, as COVID. So Jordan Love is going to start. Tyrod Taylor will start for the Texans, which will help Brandon Cooks. Saquon is out, which makes Devontae Booker potentially in play, although Devontae Booker is not a great running back. Kenny Golladay should be back, which he's a pretty good price on FanDuel at 6,000. Christian McCaffrey was activated from IR. We still haven't heard if he's going to play, but if he plays this whole complement of snaps, that could completely change this slate to be sort of intriguing for McCaffrey as a GPP play. I know the matchup against the Patriots, not a bad one. So if he gets 15, 20 carries, McCaffrey could be in play. Jameis Winston out with an ACL injury, which I think we all know. So we talked about Trevor Siemian's going to start. The big one that you need to keep an eye on, the biggest one of the day, well, I should say there's a couple, but CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper are both questionable. So CeeDee Lamb appears to be the more serious of the two, which if Lamb doesn't play, I think Amari Cooper becomes an absolute must play. Cooper on DraftKings is still a very, very strong play. Kyler Murray questionable with an ankle injury. If he's not able to go, that would be a massive hit for this Arizona defense. And then DeAndre Hopkins is questionable with a hamstring. Looks like he's going to be able to go, but with AJ Green dealing with COVID, if Hopkins isn't able to go, Christian Kirk could be extremely popular. So that's the list I had. I'm sure I missed a couple things, but getting back to your question, DK running back cash, Zeke, Eckler, Booker. I don't love Booker, to be honest. Let me pull up my rankings really quickly. Booker. So on DraftKings at 5,900, it's not a terrible price. I probably prefer Myles Gaskin at 58, right below him. Devontae Booker is just sort of he's just a guy. You look up guy in the dictionary, and that's sort of Devontae Booker. Doesn't do a lot, doesn't catch a lot of passes. He's everything about him is average. Chase Edmonds could be a good play at 53 if you can take that savings and upgrade elsewhere. But I think Myles Gaskin this week, all signs are pointing to him being one of, if not the most popular play at running back this week, which scares me because, yes, he's had an uptick in production since Malcolm Brown has been out, but do we really trust Myles Gaskin enough that they're going to give him the ball 15 to 20 times like they have been over the last 2 weeks? I don't know, but a lot of people think that they do. They will. So if you sort of just want to say, okay, let's just cancel out with the field, Myles Gaskin could be a good play there. With so much value in wide receivers, Cooks, Landry, Waddle, Renfro, yes, those are all good plays. Is it better to go super cheap and pump up running backs like Cook, Jones, Elliott, Chubb? Yeah, that's the way I'm going. So I'm going with Elliott, Chubb, Mixon, depending on the site. But Elliott, Chubb, Mixon, and then if you want to take one cheap running back, you could go with a guy like we just talked about, the range of Gaskin, or let me see who else I like in that range. Gaskin, Damian Harris are the guys that really pop. So yeah, I don't love a lot of the low end running backs unless we get some of these injuries like we've been talking about. But as of now, I think you're on the right path. I think the way I have it right now, I have Chubb, Gaskin, and Elliott in my running backs with two of Landry, Waddle, Renfro, Cooks. For higher cash plays, does a $5 lineup look the same as a 25 and then 100? Yeah, they're mostly the same. You have players that play all sorts of different price points. So there's not a significant difference, to be honest. Where it gets different and where I caution literally everyone against is do not, if you can avoid it, do not play in the 50-50s or double ups that allow you to enter more than once. You're going to get the guys that are some of the best in the industry putting in lineups that are, I have 10 lineups right now that are all within a point and a half of them. So of each other, I should say. Like there's you do your projections and then you come out with lineups, and if you use an optimizer, you can get hundreds of lineups that are within a couple points of each other. If they're producing good lineups, they're going to be multi-entering into those 50-50s. So I highly caution against anyone doing those multi-entry 50-50s or double ups. Oftentimes, what I found is that those contests actually have a higher cash point than the minimum cash in a GPP. So the way that I do it, and it's not for everybody, I do head-to-heads against people that I spend way too much time on it, but I track my opponents, track their lineups. Do they look like they have a good lineup? And if they do, I won't select those games anymore. But if you don't have that time, I know that everybody doesn't. I would look for single entry 50-50s or double ups and play the biggest ones that you can, because you're going to get some people who just put in some whack job lineups, to be honest. So that's sort of how I'd approach it. If you're new and you can still play in these beginner contests, play those, because most people can't. So, but does a 5, 25, 100, it skews it a little bit to the topper end, the top end plays. So in the 25 and 100, let's say Derrick Henry on his given weeks where he's crazy highly rostered, let's say he might be 55% rostered in a $5 and like 70% rostered in a $100. So there's a little bit there that, like, the higher dollar that you go, you might get a little bit more competitive, but it's not severe. Okay. Sunday, Monday slate, would I pay up for Cooper Kupp? What is his price? I haven't even looked at it, to be honest, but let me look at it right now. Probably could. 94 on DraftKings. Yikes. That one's tough because I love Tyreek Hill this week, and he's 7,900. So if you can find the 1,500 that you're comfortable with, I think he's fine. Checking FanDuel just because you didn't list a site, but FanDuel 9,400 as well. Tyreek Hill's 85. I like him more on FanDuel than I do on DraftKings because Tyreek Hill has just become a target monster for this. Oh, you did say DraftKings. I apologize. My brain is all over the place right now. On DraftKings, I might look at Tyreek. I think a lot of people are going to go to Cooper Kupp in that contest, especially in GPPs, because if you're playing Sunday, Monday, you're probably doing it to get Cooper Kupp, which means Cooper Kupp's roster percentage is going to go through the roof. So a good pivot could be going Tyreek Hill, I think he's averaging like 15 targets over his last 4 or 5 games, something like that. His yards per catch is way down. I think he's at 11 compared to, I was doing this earlier. He's at like 11 point something, 11.4 maybe. And he has not been below 14.7 since his rookie year. So they're using him on shorter routes. They're using him on more possession type catches to get the ball in space to him quickly. So if he can get 8, 9, 10 catches, his Kupp going to score 2 touchdowns every game? Maybe. But if he doesn't, you could have some good leverage against the field. No. I don't think so. I mean, you can look at really earlier this season when Beckham was out. I think if you want to take a shot on Higgins as a GPP play, fine. But I think Chubb gets more work. I think the tight ends get some more work. But you have to remember, right? What was Beckham really doing? Nothing. He had 1 catch for 6 yards last week. So it's not like he was a big piece of this lineup. So I don't anticipate that the roles are going to drastically change because Odell Beckham didn't have a role. Ash, you're killing me. Right now, I have Jalen Waddle ever so slightly above Jarvis Landry. But I can't even tell you how much time I spent on this. It's truly a coin flip for me. I have them projected within a half a point of each other. The reason I went with Waddle is with no Devontae Parker, there's less options to go to, and the Houston matchup should be better, I should say. It's close though. Honestly, I'm completely okay with going in either direction here. FanDuel best wide receiver value, Tony, Renfro, Waddle. I will rank them. I don't trust Hunter Renfro. On DraftKings, he's fine because of the PPR aspect. but it goes back to the role change. And is Hunter Renfro's role going to change significantly? It maybe, but probably not. Henry Ruggs was a deep threat. So, does that really affect Hunter Renfro? I don't view Renfro nearly as consistent as Jalen Waddle. Kadarius Toney is tough because they're getting some wide receivers back. What's his role going to be when Galladay comes back? I want a week to figure that out. He struggled last week. He was good against the Rams, even though the stat line says he wasn't because he got hurt in the first quarter and he had 3 for 36. And Joe Judge is not thrilled with him based off of his messages that came out supporting Henry Ruggs. So does that mean anything? Probably not. But Galladay is the biggest worry for me, that with Galladay back, I can't do it. So I'm going Waddle by a pretty decent margin. Then I'm going Jarvis Landry. Then I'm going Renfro. Then I'm going Toney. Need one. Carr, Love, Tyrod Taylor. I don't know. Is this season long? If it's season long, I'm going Derek Carr. If it's DraftKings, I'm going Jordan Love at 4,400. On FanDuel, I'm going FanDuel. How do I have these ranked? I think Carr's somewhat expensive. Carr, Love, and Taylor. Yeah, it's Jordan Love for me, although I do like Derek Carr. So in DFS, I would just take the savings because I'm either paying way up for these quarterbacks, but if you're in a season-long league, which I think you are, if you're asking for these specific quarterbacks, I would go Derek Carr. Yeah, if everybody can hit the like button, it costs you nothing. I'm taking time out of my Saturday night. Please, it does help this show and helps us continue doing this. So if you could do that, that would be helpful. Kicker, Bullock or Butkus? I have no idea. Go with whatever team is projected to score the most points. Honestly, I'm assuming you mean Butker. If it's Butker, I would play Butker on Kansas City. Week 9 prop talk is excellent. Yeah, I like Baker Mayfield over 232 yards this week. It's the first time I've ever liked Baker Mayfield ever. One prop for Saturday, chat. I don't have anything that I like off the top of my head, but I'll look at it throughout the show, Max, and I'll get back to you on that. Jackson Brown stack with Cooper Higgins or Allen Diggs with Edwards and Hardman. Give me the the problem with these is it's like, do I like either one? Let me just break this down a little bit. So DK Cash, I don't like Marquise Brown, and I don't like Rashard Higgins. I don't really like the bottom end wide receivers either. So I would just look at like where you're spending your money. I think it's trying to be in a GPP. I think these are more GPP focused lineups. Mecole Hardman is fine. He's fine. I can't do Bryan Edwards in cash because he's too much of a deep threat. I would look at, let me just look at salaries really quickly to try and help you out. But Edwards. Bryan Edwards at 4,100. Pretty low. So I would look at where you're spending at your running back position, to be honest, and see if you can spend down a little bit. Maybe look at a Myles Gaskin. Maybe look at Maybe look at your tight end. Look at Albert Akwe. I will get this right. Albert Akwu-Egbunam, who's the minimum price at tight end, replacing Noah Fant this week. So you could look at other ways to save. I think you're taking too much risk in both of those bottom end receivers. FanDuel, Love, and Alberto, not as viable. I think Alberto's fine on FanDuel, to be honest. I think he's completely fine. Jordan Love is not viable on FanDuel just because you don't need to go there. But Alberto at 4,500, I think Alberto has, I don't want to say as much upside, but if I look at like 5,500 and below, I would prefer Zach Ertz over Alberto at the $1,000 more, but I can't find $1,000 that I like to get up to Ertz. Outside of that, Tyler Conklin at 52, I think is okay, but he comes with his own risk. Dan Arnold, he's fine, but he's facing Buffalo, which I don't love. Excuse me. And then you get to Alberto. So there's not, if you look at lineup construction, you have to look at if George Kittle was 100% healthy at $6,000, I would be pumping him up and say, everybody go and run and play George Kittle and figure the rest of your lineup out. It's not. So Mike Gesicki is incredibly expensive at 65. Kyle Pitts too expensive. I don't love the Calvin Ridley being out. I actually thought Calvin Ridley being in helped Kyle Pitts because Kyle Pitts is now going to be the focal point of that offense. And Kelsey is way too expensive. So Alberto is completely fine. Jordan Love, I can't get behind on FanDuel. You just don't need to go there. Go with Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson there. Do you like Edmonds, Moss, either of the Denver backs, or someone in that price range? Chase Edmonds is fine. I think he's fine on DraftKings. They're tied up with all sorts of injuries. Kyler's not going to be able to run. Cliff Kingsbury's basically come out and said as much. If Kyler plays, I like Edmonds. If he doesn't play, this whole offense could be an absolute disaster. Melvin Gordon is like okay, but Dallas run defense has been pretty good. So I would prefer Edmonds in this range. I think he's probably my favorite sub 5,500 cash game play this week. And I feel pretty comfortable saying that. Ayuk or Tony Pollard as a flex. It's too early to know, to be honest, Tyler. I think we'll hear something overnight. Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport typically release some tweets around 3 to 4 a.m. They schedule them so that they're not giving teams too much of a notice that they know who's going to be out, but they do release like who's expected to play. So if Debo is playing, I can't go with Ayuk. I would have to go with Tony Pollard, but hopefully we'll hear something. We'll hear something before that. When the Cowboys play, yeah, the Cowboys are at noon, so hopefully we'll hear something before that. But if we don't hear anything, I would go with Tony Pollard. It's just too much risk. What's the latest Kyler Murray? We sort of don't know. I think we would start to hear some things if he wasn't going to play. We would start to hear he's looking doubtful. They're elevating a quarterback. They made some roster moves to the active roster, but it was activating a tight end up from the practice squad. So I would have expected that they would have activated a quarterback. Maybe they already have 3 quarterbacks on their active roster. I don't 100% no, admittedly. But I would expect Kyler Murray to play, but it's truly a game time decision from everything that's out there. Yeah, why do I love T. Higgins over Chase? It's just a price thing. At 5,300 on DraftKings, T. Higgins is in a really good spot. He's a big receiver, which I like targeting big receivers against Cleveland. Chase at 7,600 is just too expensive. So it's entirely a value proposition. So if I look at Jamar Chase, I will find an extra $300 to get to Tyreek Hill. If I look at T. Higgins and I look at 5,300, there are not a lot of receivers that I like over him on DraftKings. He's a possession receiver. He's involved in this offense. I do like Jarvis Landry at 51. So I do like Jalen Waddle at 56. And you could make a case for Christian Kirk if Kyler is playing and Hopkins is going to be limited. But Higgins, big receivers against Cleveland have a long history of performing well. Higgins is 6'4", so I think they're just not comparable players, if that makes any sense. Just playing Love naked in a GP single entry DK. I think it's not a must stack. Let's just put it that way. I don't think it is, because at 4,400, you're not expecting the rationale to play Jordan Love. Jordan Love is not going to lead quarterbacks in scoring tomorrow. He's just not. He's not going to pull a Mike White. Watch him do it, but he's not going to. So what you have to think about for Jordan Love is, okay, Jordan Love, if you can get me 250 and 2 at 4,400, that's 18 points. You're looking at 4.5x value. That's what you need. And problem is there, if Adams doesn't catch those 2 touchdowns, you have to look at Adams in a vacuum as well and say, okay, Devontae Adams, you're priced up, you're close to Tyreek Hill. You could actually stack Love with a Tyreek Hill and just hope that Tyreek Hill has some early points and Jordan Love is forced to throw the entire game. There's too many options there as far as, could they check the ball down to Aaron Jones? Could they go to Allen Lazard or Marquez Valdez-Scantling or some other players? But you're not expecting the 350 and 4 touchdown type performance. You need to make that up, that the difference between Love and a Josh Allen, through the savings that you get from your other players. Lamar cash game lock, it's either him or Josh Allen. You could go, if you're not doing that, there are some options to go down, but you could go Dak Prescott at 69 if both if both Cooper and Lamb are playing. You could go honestly at that point, outside of Dak, I would go all the way down to Jordan Love. So I think there's a couple different options. You could go top end, Josh Allen, hard to go wrong with him. Hard to go wrong with Lamar. I think Tua is probably fine, although he's dealing with a finger injury, which is the next question. But I think Tua is okay. I prefer him more in a GPP, but I would look at Allen, Lamar, Prescott, Love. Not necessarily in that order, but they're different price points. Avoid Tua. No, I think Tua is fine. I think that this game is actually going to have more points than what people are anticipating. I actually have this as my sneaky stack of the week with Tyrod Taylor back. I think this game goes over the total. I think you're going to get 55 points or so in this game. The problem is the range of outcomes is pretty wide. So if I look at compared to where I want to spend. If there was a Derrick Henry or if there was a Cooper Kupp this week, I might look at Tua a little bit harder. But to be honest, I'm not, because there's so many value options at the wide receiver position. There's Albert O. There's cheap defenses. You could play the Chiefs. You could play San Francisco. If Kyler Murray's not going to be mobile, how is that going to happen with the pass rush that the 49ers have? So I would look at saving elsewhere, to be honest, and spending up at the quarterback position. Is Joe Burrow a good pivot from Jackson and Allen FanDuel Cash? My question there is why? What are we trying to do? So is Joe Burrow a bad play? No. Does he have the safety of Allen or Lamar? No. Joe Burrow at 7,600 against Cleveland. This game could be a shootout. Certainly could be. But it also could be like we saw last week where it was like 15-10. And we've seen a number of these games with Cleveland where it's slow, low scoring, a lot of punts. And Joe Burrow just screws with my head because I was at the Bears-Bengals game back in week 2, and Joe Burrow looked terrible in that game. So it stuck with me for far too long. I need to get past that little bias that when you watch a player for 4 quarters against a bad Bears team, their defense is decent, but I would look, if you want to go someone in that price range, go with Jalen Hurts at 7,800. I think that Hurts has the upside of an Allen or a Lamar, but certainly doesn't have a floor. But it all goes back to why. What are we doing? What are we trying to figure out? I'm letting someone else make the mistake of going with a non-Lamar or Josh Allen this week. Go with, if it's Damian Harris, go with Damian Harris. I don't worry too much about Josh Allen being your opponent's quarterback, because Josh Allen can get so many points from so many different ways. He has Cole Beasley, he has Stephon Diggs, he has Dawson Knox, although Dawson Knox is not great, but has him. And then he can run. He can certainly run touchdowns into. So Emmanuel Sanders, not someone that I want to rely on. Is Eckler too chalky? Let me see where I have him from a roster percentages. So I have Eckler at 30. Yes. Yeah, I have him at 32% right now. I worry for Eckler, and I said it on the Power Grid, but there's a lot of games here where Eckler doesn't get the touches that we think he does. So Eckler had multi-touchdown games against Cleveland and Las Vegas, which sort of skewed his overall stats for the year. But those were the first multi-touchdown games he's had in the last 2.5 years. So what is Eckler's upside at 7,900 is what I would question. Certainly he could, have another 140-yard game with 2 touchdowns like he did against Las Vegas. But he's only averaging, if I just look at this, do some quick math, 84, 7. Averaging 16 touches per game. At 30% rostered, I think you can find other ways to build a roster this week. I like I said, you could go up to Tyreek Hill. You could go to a Nick Chubb who has a 100-yard bonus touchdown up, or 100-yard bonus upside. You could go to Ezekiel Elliott. You could go with these other guys that I don't think Eckler is like by far and away the best running back this week. The matchup's good against the Eagles, no question about it. But they shut down DeAndre Swift last week. And if I look at who a comparable player to Eckler would be, it would certainly be DeAndre Swift. I think they're very similar players. So I'm not playing him. Long story short. If he was 15% rostered, yeah. But I'm not doing it. Thank you. I never look lovely, but I appreciate the compliment. Yeah, that one's tricky. Shanahan sort of told us. So it just depends on. He basically said if Jeff Wilson is good to go, we're going to limit Eli Mitchell. Whether you believe that or not, honestly, who knows? Because he told us Trey Sermon was going to start, and we know how that went. So I don't trust anything that comes out of Kyle Shanahan's mouth, but it's hard to love Eli Mitchell. It depends on what your other options are. In DFS, I can't do it. The chance of him seeing 10 carries just crushes you. So I think Jeff Wilson has a role. So until we see otherwise, can't do it. Any love for Dalvin Cook? Sure. I think he's fine. Is he, is he the must play this week? No. But he's as good as, like I said, the guys on FanDuel this week are, for me, are Chubb. Let's see. I just want to pull up my list. The guys I love, Elliott, Chubb, Mixon. Fringe plays I have, Kamara, Eckler. Cook is okay. I think the price is it's a little expensive. But Elliott, Chubb, Mixon, Cordero Patterson, Damian Harris, Myles Gaskin are the guys that I really love. And then Aaron Jones you could throw in there. But to be honest, Cook is just a little expensive for cash for me, but you could do it. I don't think there's anything like glaringly wrong with it. If Cole Beasley sits, is that even on the table? I hadn't even heard that. Cole Beasley. Yeah, I guess he's a non-participant. If he doesn't play, is Gabriel Davis an option? So let me look at Bill's. So the key thing here for players that have been on the team for a little bit of time, look at Footballguys has a great snap count tool where you can very easily just, let me see if I can share my screen. I don't know if this is going to work. So if it doesn't work, I apologize. But let me share my screen really quickly. Share. This would be a game changer if it works. I don't know if you guys can see this, but if you can see this, this is awesome. But Footballguys, all you have to do is go to Google and put in Footballguys snap counts, and it'll certainly pop up. And it's free. You don't have to have you don't have to be logged in. Anyone can access this. So if you go to the Bills, and I haven't done this before, so we're doing it together, and we look at wide receivers, what I would look at is how do wide receiver snap counts change when a player is out? So something happened here in week 5 where Cole Beasley was only on the field for 39% of the plays. Gabriel Davis's snaps didn't really increase at all. Let me see if Beasley missed a game last year. This does have several years of history. At least it did. It's not on here. You can switch to 2020. Beasley missed a game last year. Gabriel Davis's numbers didn't really change. So that's where I would be a little bit cautious. And I don't know if that worked. So if someone can put that in a chat, I'll certainly watch it back. But if it did work, that's awesome because I'll certainly share more of Footballguys' site going forward. But it makes a little, he'll get a little bit of an uptick, but so will Emmanuel Sanders, so will Stephon Diggs. He's still only going to be on the field for 35 to 40% of the plays. So I wouldn't go down that path, to be honest. I'm not answering questions about the wedding. It was fine. It was good. It was very expensive. I was very out of place. Non-PPR, James Conner or Chase Edmonds. Give me James Conner. He's getting more of the red zone work compared to Chase Edmonds. They're sort of about the same player outside of the touchdowns. So if Kittle plays and no Debo, is he an expensive pivot? I just don't know the snap count for Kittle. I don't know how healthy he is. So I'm taking a wait and see. If I'm going up to that range, I'm finding a way to go to Mike Gesicki, but I'm playing Alberto. Waddle or Cooper? TBD. I love Amari Cooper. I'm not going to lie. I think he's a really good play this week. He's a must play, an absolute must play if CeeDee Lamb is out. So TBD, but it's hard to go wrong with any of those four, to be honest. I like Higgins, I like Waddle, I like Cooper. Cooks sort of in and out on, but with Tyrod Taylor back, I think it's a good play. When's Jordan McNamara coming on for a guest spot? I don't know. I need to coordinate with him. Tony or Darrell Williams in PPR? Give me... I need to pull it up because I don't know off the top of my head. It's probably Williams. Probably Williams. Tony. Close. I have them within less than a point of each other, but I would go Darrell Williams. It's just safer. Just safer. If you need the upside, you could go with Kadarius Toney, but no, Artemis, it doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't impact cash lineups at all. I use it a little bit, to be honest, to see like where the field might be going. So if I see something like Austin Eckler at 30%, then I know he's going to be popular in cash, and I have to make a decision whether I'm comfortable fading him like I am. But so I'm fine with it, but it doesn't drive my decisions at all. For GPPs, I think it is important, especially if you're going to play in the multi-lineup realm. I think it's important to factor in. Dylan GPP, maybe. I don't love it just because what's his upside? He's going to get 12 to probably 10 to 12 touches, 10 to 12 carries. He's going to have to score a touchdown at least, maybe two. But he's cheap, so I don't think a ton of people are going to have him. Let's see where I have him projected. Dylan, I have him at 2% rostered. So if he can find the end zone at least once, I think you're in really good shape. If he finds it twice, you're outstanding. So they're going to try and run the ball for sure. All right, so 10 minutes left. I like always, I will answer every question that is asked before 10 o'clock Central, 11 o'clock Eastern. You guys can do the rest for the different time zones. So if you haven't, there's 71 people here, which is awesome. So if you can give that a like, that helps us grow this. We've grown it nearly every week. I know last week was a little bit weird with us popping on a weird time, and but if you can give this a like, that whether you're on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, or I don't even know if you can retweet it if you're on Twitter. But any help from an exposure standpoint helps us keep this thing going. Waddle or Judy for season and DK? Give me. Let me look. Judy. Yeah, it's Waddle for both. Akwu Egbuna. I think you're missing the EG in there. Dean. I have it. Ku Egg Bunam. I don't know. I was listening to some University of Missouri pronunciation guide trying to pronounce that for the Power Grid. So I don't know if it's right, but any issues with Gaskin and Waddle in the same lineup? No, I think it's fine. You have to think, right? Miami's going to move the ball. Let's say they score 21 points and they get 350 to 400 yards. What percentage of those yards are going to go through Gaskin and Waddle? Outside of Gesicki, they don't really have a ton of guys. So I think a lot of those, it's sort of like, could you play, just use an example of a running back, wide receiver. Could you play Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson in the same lineup without Kirk Cousins? Of course you could. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. Jalen Waddle more of a play on FanDuel, Parker out. No, I think he's fine on both, to be honest. He's a PPR monster, and he's had red zone targets. So I think he's fine on both. Zach Moss, sure. Anything goes in the Millie Maker. I need to hurry up because I am 20 minutes behind on these questions. A lot of questions tonight, which is awesome. So, like I said, any question that's asked between now and the next 5 minutes, I will answer. If not, you can always hit us up on. I try to answer this week's a little bit different. Let me pause here and say, if you haven't entered the Power Grid giveaway, let me post that really quickly. We have 75 people here. We're giving away a ton of memorabilia, Football Guys memberships, Roto Grinders memberships, a ton of stuff on the Football Guys Power Grid. All you have to do, very simple, like the video and comment on the video with a way for us to contact you. We're giving away autograph cards, autograph pictures, mini helmets. I think we're giving away a signed check from Hank Stram, which is like super random, but I had that laying around. Taysom Hill signed helmet, AJ Dillon signed helmet, Aaron Rodgers rookie card, Troy Aikman rookie card, a ton of just like nothing super crazy, but some fun stuff. We tried to capture every division so that like people have something in the giveaway. We talk about it in the first 5 minutes of that video. So go ahead and if you could enter, it only helps you. Tyreek Hill, Diggs, and Waddle for FanDuel Cash. Yeah. I think I'm very similar. Am I starting Christian McCaffrey's first game back, or it's a wait and see? It depends. In a season-long league, you're starting him. In DFS, he's still priced up a little bit too high, and probably a wait and see. But I could look incredibly stupid by that because he could come out and just be the Christian McCaffrey that we've been waiting for. So he's not going to be very popular. So if you're in a GPP, going with Christian McCaffrey certainly could be a way that if he breaks out, you could have a very good day. KJ Osborne, too much of a stretch, yeah. As a GPP play, look, if you're in a tournament that pays out a ridiculous amount to first place, and you believe in KJ Osborne, I'm not going to tell you no. But a lot of people are not going to play him, myself included, because he's a boomer bust. He's like the fifth option in that lineup. So Van Jefferson, a good start. It depends. In a season-long league, I'm assuming is what you're saying. It's fine. It depends on what the options are. Nick Chubb and then Millie Maker, yes, I think he's fine. Do I sleep in the football season? No, not really. How much time do I spend? So I have a full-time job. I don't do this full-time. Very difficult to make it full-time in this industry. You can do it, but it's difficult. And it depends on how much you want to make and that type of thing. It's maybe a discussion for another day. But Full-time job. I'm in finance for a fairly large company. You can look it up on LinkedIn. I don't want to go into that too much, but I spend between all the articles, everything I do for Football Guys, easily 30 plus hours a week. Just building a cash lineup, I spend probably 10 hours, but that comes with that comes with a lineup or an article that I do for Football Guys, but easily 30 hours, probably closer to 40. So I sleep about 4 hours a night during the football season. Do you start? I would start McCaffrey, to be honest. I prefer Gaskin. I think he's going to be more popular, which can cancel out with some of the field. But if you want to make the decision of, hey, I don't believe in Myles Gaskin and I want to go with Chase Edmonds, I'm fine with that. I just don't want my entire week to come down to Myles Gaskin versus Chase Edmonds. I'm going to take the approach of, okay, I'll just cancel everybody out. Not everybody, but you know what I mean. More people out with Myles Gaskin. He's going to be a little bit more popular. I do like him a little bit more, but Edmonds could be in a really good spot this week because if Kyler Murray is out, they may go, or not out, but if he's limited, they may have to go with Edmonds because he provides more of a dynamic threat there. So I need to hurry up with these questions. But 2 minutes, I'll give it another 2 minutes. 10:02, I'm cutting off questions. So get your questions in now if you haven't already, and then I'll cut it off. I will get to every question that has been asked up until 10:02. Plug in Ertz if Murray and AJ sit, or Schultz if Gallup and Lamb play. If we know that, I think that's going to be the challenge, but I would play Ertz in that situation. If not, just go with Dalton Schultz because I don't think we're going to fully know. AJ Green sounds like he's going to be out, but if Murray is, I think Murray's going to be a last minute decision, to be honest. No. Well, if he's out, yeah. Yes. If Eli Mitchell is ruled out, can you trust Jeff Wilson in cash? Yes. He will become one of the top plays in cash this week. I thought I was misreading the question. Yes, absolutely. It depends on the opportunity cost, and I hate not answering questions. I hate it. The better play is Tyreek Hill. But at what cost? That's what you have to ask yourself. Are you comfortable with the price difference there? But in terms of just who the better play is, I believe Tyreek Hill is in for a really good spot this week, as he has been the last couple of weeks. Averaging 14, 15 targets. Stephon Diggs was bailed out by a touchdown last week. He scored in 2 straight weeks when he hasn't scored in the full season. So is he going to score again? I don't know. Tyreek Hill is a better play. However, can you afford him is the question. Yeah, Eckler is comparable to Swift, but Eckler is a much better offense. But I was just I was just making the point that Swift was largely taking out. Awesome. Thanks, John. I appreciate you. I will try to use that going forward in this. I think it helps the screen a little bit just to show what I'm looking at in the background. I know, guys, Eckler is in a much better offense than Swift. I get it. If CMC plays, it doesn't impact my FanDuel cash lineup at all. Doesn't. Who do I flex tomorrow? Patterson. Yeah. Ayuk if Debo sits. Yeah, Ayuk will become incredibly popular if Debo is out. I think he'll become a GPP and cash play, to be honest, because he's super cheap, I believe. 4,100, yeah. He'll be really popular at that price.
Yeah, I'm off Eli. If they come out and say Jeff Wilson's not going to play, I'm in. I think Eli Mitchell's in a really good spot against Arizona. He's been utilized very heavily, but yeah, I think I answered this question already. Gaskin over Edmonds for me. I think it's a good question. Is Colt McCoy playable at $4,000? I would probably prefer Jordan Love, to be honest. I think that's more of a high pace game. I like Zach Ertz if Colt McCoy is playing. I think it takes Christian Kirk out. It might help. It's not going to help anybody, but Rondale Moore might still be in play because they could get him the ball in space. But am I going to play Colt McCoy at $4,000? I don't think so. Boston Scott projections. Yeah, I could pull that up. It's not great. I'll be honest. Boston Scott projections. We have him for really low. Boston. 7 carries for 30 yards and a 40% chance at a touchdown. So I think that one is just so hard to figure out because how they're going to continue to split that offense. Was Gainwell in the doghouse? Was he hurt? What's Jordan Howard's role going to be? What's Boston Scott's role going to be? There's so much up in the air that having him projected for like 12 or 13 carries is a pretty big stand. So I tend to agree there that 7, 8 carries, 9 maybe. Thanks, John. Thanks for hanging out, buddy. If I have one, I'll share it. But let me see who I like this week. I said I liked the over in the Houston. God, I can't even think right now. Once we go an hour, my brain just shuts off. Houston to Miami game, it's over 46.5. The other game, I like the Bengals a lot at -2. I think the Browns are pretty dysfunctional at the moment. And then I did say I would give you another parlay pick. So take I'll still figure that out. You can DK cash if Debo sits, yes. If Higgins a lot of, I think those 4 are still better plays, but you get the savings from Ayuk. So I would probably try and fit Ayuk in. Is Rondale Moore a good play? Yes. And I should clarify that. Is Rondale Moore a good play? It depends. And in GPP, yes. In cash, no. No, you're fine if you don't do Twitter. I'll respond back to. I think we talk about this, Kurt. Get on Twitter. You can just follow football people, and your feed will only be football. But I will respond back to your comment if you won in the giveaway, and then you'll have to give me an email address or some way to contact you. Why do I lose with all my cheap lineups? Okay, I'm not. Derek, enough. Any love for Mac Jones stack on DK? No, not this week. Carolina's run defense is pretty good, to be honest. I don't want to say it's great, but it's pretty good. I'm sorry, pass defense is pretty good. Run defense is susceptible, so I think it's going to be a heavier run game for Damian Harris. If Tua is out, I assume it's an upgrade for Caston. Yeah, I think Waddle is tied pretty closely to Tua. Those two have had a really nice rapport. You look at Waddle with Jacoby Brissett, and it's not as good. So is it an upgrade for Gaskin? It's probably neutral. I tend to think Tua is playing, to be honest. I think the sports books would have that line off the board or a little bit different than what it is if Tua was out. Herbert Allen looked good to me. I think it's fine. On DraftKings, I think it's fine. I would play it on DraftKings over FanDuel because of the 300-yard bonus and the 100-yard bonus and PPR. So I think it's totally fine. What Cowboys player do you start of Elliott, Cooper, or do you start Waddle instead of Waddle? Not sure. Hold on. Cooper and Elliott or Waddle over Cooper? So I answered the Jeff Wilson question. I only play Jeff Wilson if Eli Mitchell's out. If I have to pick between Cooper and Elliott or Waddle over Cooper, if you can fit both in DraftKings, I think Amari Cooper is a phenomenal play on DraftKings. I think Jalen Waddle is a very good play. I would have Cooper ahead of Waddle, but they're in different price points. So can you get up to the $6,000? If the answer is yes, great. Cool with it. But if the answer is no, then I'm completely fine taking the salary and going down to Jalen Waddle. What's up with Derek Gore? If you're in a season-long league and you're desperate, take him. It's fine. Yeah, I'm not using YouTube, so I'm using StreamYard, which gives me comments from all the different Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, everything. So I don't know if I'm seeing the retractions, but I appreciate it. Nixon? Why can I not? Who's Nixon? Trey Nixon? Nope. This is where my brain shuts off after an hour and 7 minutes. Yeah, Trey Nixon. No, I don't even have Trey. I'm assuming you mean Joe Mixon. I think Mixon is fine. It's a pretty big jump, I believe, to Kamara from Mixon. Maybe not. Yeah, it's $1,100, so hard to fit in. So if you can do it, I prefer Kamara in like a vacuum 1-for-1. But what are you actually giving up is the question you have to answer. Max, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to post something on Twitter. So follow, or I'll post it in the article. I can't realistically give you a prop that I'm just gonna fly off the cuff and give something bad. Yeah, I know, Dean. I know. I don't disagree. I stay out of. There's different circles, so you can follow beat writers. You can follow certain people who I don't get involved in any of that. Just mute people if you don't like hearing them. That's the approach that I take. I don't find these questions are always hard, J33, because you have to find the right trade partner. So find someone who needs a running back. You could go after Nick Chubb, go after Joe Mixon, go after I don't think you'll get like a higher end player than that in an 8-team league. Eckler, maybe. Something like that. All right. Chase Edmonds, Kenny Gainwell, marking them. Good Lord. You have to start 2 of them. Edmonds is starting. Probably Mike Davis. Yeah, it's probably Mike Davis or Devonta Freeman, but it's scary. I would go Freeman in non-PPR and Davis in PPR. All right, I'm cutting this off in a second. Relax about what? I'm relaxed, Max. I just didn't want to give you a bad prop. So I'll post something on Twitter or I'll post it in the article or something. Do I like any Falcons receivers? I like Cordell Patterson. Matchup's tough. Matchup's a really difficult one. I think the Saints could come in and just dominate this, but yeah, I think Pitts is tough because he benefited more when Ridley was there. So Henry and Keenan Allen for Cook. I'm not a dynasty guy, to be honest. Let me give you two names that I trust on Twitter. You could ask. I would ask dynasty questions. Dan Hendry and Chad Parsons. Okay. Last question. Vandal, just because Darren comes here every week. Core plays Waddle, Elliott, either Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, Albert O, Jarvis Landry, Stephon Diggs. Let me see who else I have real quick. Ezekiel, Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, Cordero Patterson, Damian Harris, Myles Gaskin, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, Jalen Waddle, Jarvis Landry, Albert O, and then a lot of defenses, but I prefer the Chiefs. Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. I hope this helped. We will see everyone next week. If you have any questions, hit me up on Twitter at Devin Knotts FBG. Thanks, everybody.